The Valari homeworld was beautiful from space. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds drifting across the surface. It looked peaceful. It looked innocent. It looked like a world that had never caused harm to anyone. Appearances, Taiho knew, could lie. He stood on the bridge of Captain Dren's ship, watching through the main window as Earth ships surrounded the planet. 30 warships, battered and scarred from battle, formed a perfect ring around the Valari world. No ship could enter or leave without passing through that ring. Dren himself sat in the corner, hands bowed, eyes empty. His perfect life had fallen apart in less than a week. His ship had been captured by escaped slaves. His fleet had been destroyed by an enemy everyone told him was weak. Now he waited to learn his fate, and the waiting was worse than anything else. Yuna stood beside her brother. The bruise on her face had faded to yellow, but the experience had left other marks that would take longer to heal. She had seen terrible things in those cages. She had seen how the Valari treated people they considered less than themselves. What happens now? She asked. Now, Taiho said, they pay. Admiral Baek Dong-hyun contacted the Valari High Council from his command ship. His face appeared on every screen on the planet. His voice echoed through every communication device. No one could avoid his message. Leaders of the Valari, he said, I am Admiral Baek of the United Earth Navy. Your fleet attacked our ships without cause. Your captain kidnapped our citizens. Your government has permitted the slave trade in your space for generations. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. This ends today. The High Council had no choice but to respond. Their military was shattered. Their homeworld was surrounded. The humans had proven, in the most brutal way possible, that they were not the weak creatures the Valari had believed them to be. The council speaker, an ancient Valari named Vorn, addressed the admiral through a diplomatic channel. What are your terms? Complete abolition of the slave trade in all Valari space. Immediate release of every captive in every facility. Financial payment to all victims and their families. And public trials for every individual involved in trafficking operations, starting with Captain Dren. Vorn was silent for a long moment. These terms would destroy the slave trade that had made so many Valari wealthy. They would humiliate the entire species before the galactic community. They would change everything. And if we refuse? Admiral Baek's face showed no emotion. Then we will blockade your world until your economy collapses. We will hunt every slave ship in the galaxy and destroy it. We will make the cost of refusing so high that you will wish you had accepted. You cannot do that. The other species will not allow it. The other species are watching this broadcast right now. They have seen your slave markets. They have seen your cages. They have seen what you do to innocent people. The Admiral leaned forward slightly. Do you really think they will object? The silence stretched for nearly a minute. Then Vorn spoke again, and his voice was the voice of a broken leader accepting defeat. We accept your terms. The liberation began immediately. Earthships spread throughout Valari space, locating slave facilities and freeing captives. Thousands of beings emerged from cages and holding cells, blinking in the light, unable to believe they were free. On Keth Prime, the great slave market was shut down. The traders who had grown fat on the suffering of others were arrested and transported to Earth for trial. Their beautiful homes were empty. Their wealth was seized. Everything they had built on pain was taken away. Taiho and Yuna were among the first to be recovered. A shuttle from the Indomitable docked with Dren's captured ship, and Captain Jie herself came aboard to greet them. She found Taiho on the bridge, still watching over his prisoners. He looked tired. He looked older than he had a week ago. But when he saw his former commander, he straightened up and saluted. Kong Taiho, Jie said. You caused quite a lot of trouble. Sorry about that, Captain. Don't be. She smiled. You did something that needed to be done. The galaxy knows about the Valari now. The slave trade is finished. And it's because one man refused to give up. Taiho shook his head. It wasn't just me. It was Yuna. It was the other prisoners. It was you and the Admiral and everyone who came to help. Maybe, but someone had to start it. Someone had to show that it was possible. She handed him a small case. Inside was a medal, the highest honor Earth could give to a citizen who showed exceptional courage. Taiho looked at it for a long moment. Then he closed the case and handed it back. I didn't do this for honors, he said. I did it because they took my sister. That's all. That's everything. Jie accepted the case without argument. She understood. 1 month later, a ceremony was held on Earth. It was broadcast across the entire galaxy. Admiral Beak spoke about justice. Politicians spoke about peace. Representatives from a dozen species spoke about cooperation and the future. But the moment everyone remembered came at the end. Taiho and Yuna stood before the cameras, just two ordinary humans who had been in the wrong place at the wrong time. A reporter asked Taiho what message he wanted to send to the galaxy. He thought about it for a while. He thought about the cage where he had been kept. He thought about the guards who had laughed. He thought about Dre and Cirrus and all the others who had believed that humans were weak. Family, he said finally. That's what humans have that no one seems to understand. We protect our families, not just our blood relatives. All of us, every human is part of the same family. He looked directly into the camera. You can fight us. You can hurt us. You can even kill some of us. But if you take one of us, the rest will come. We will find you. We will not stop. And we will make you pay. The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, species who had never thought about humans suddenly started thinking very carefully. Slave operations that had run for centuries began to shut down, their operators afraid that they might be next. Criminals whispered a new warning to each other in dark places. Never take a human. They will find you. They will not stop. And they will make you pay. Ho went home. He returned to his quiet life as an engineer. Yuna went back to her research. They did not seek fame or glory. They did not want statues or songs or stories. They just wanted to live in peace. And thanks to what they had done, thanks to the price the galaxy had paid, peace was finally possible. The universe was a big place, full of dangers and wonders. But from that day forward, every species and every corner of space knew one simple truth. Humans were not to be touched. Ever. The throne room of the Valen Empire stretched for nearly half a kilometer. Golden pillars rose toward a ceiling painted with the images of conquered worlds. Thousands of nobles stood in perfect rows, their silver skin glowing under the light of 3 artificial suns. They had gathered to witness something that had never happened before in their long history. Their Empress was marrying a human. Empress Yuna sat on her throne, her face showing no emotion. She was over 400 years old, but she looked no older than 30 by human standards. Her eyes were the color of deep space, and her voice could make generals tremble. She ruled 47 star systems. Billions of lives depended on her decisions. And today, she was marrying a creature from a small blue planet that most Valens had never heard of until 50 years ago. The marriage was not about love. It was about survival. The Valen Empire was powerful, but a new enemy had appeared at the edge of known space. The Empress needed allies, and Earth had something valuable. Humans bred fast, spread faster, and had a strange talent for adapting to any world they touched. A political marriage would seal the alliance between the two civilizations. When Earth received the proposal, no politician wanted to go. The journey was long. The Valen homeworld had gravity that could crush human bones. and everyone knew the marriage was just for show. The human spouse would be nothing more than a decoration in an alien court. So when a military medic named Tejo volunteered, the United Nations accepted immediately. They were just happy someone was willing to go. Tejo walked into the throne room, and 10,000 Valen nobles turned to look at him. He was not tall. He was not handsome in any special way. He wore a simple black suit because Earth could not afford the fancy clothes that Valen custom demanded. His hair was neat, his posture was straight, and his face carried a small, calm smile. Whispers spread through the crowd like fire. This is what humans look like? So small. I heard they only live for 80 years. How sad. The Empress is lowering herself for this. For this weak little thing. Yuna watched the human approach her throne. She had studied his file. Tejo, 32 years old. Born in a country called Korea on the eastern side of Earth. He had served as a medic in 3 different wars and saved over 200 lives. His psychological evaluation said he was abnormally calm under pressure. She found that description almost funny. What did humans know about real pressure? The gravity in the throne room was set to Valen's standard, which was 1.4 times Earth's pull. Most humans would struggle to walk. Some would collapse. Yuna watched Tejo climb the 200 steps to her throne without slowing down. His breathing did not change. His smile did not fade. When he reached the top, he bowed deeply, and then he did something that made the entire room go silent. He looked directly into her eyes. No, one looked directly at the Empress. Not her generals. Not her sister. Not the rulers of other empires. To meet her gaze was to challenge her, and no one in 400 years had been foolish enough to try. Yet this human stood before her, looked into her eyes, and said in perfectly accented Valen, "It is my honor to meet you. Empress Yuna, I hope I can be worthy of this alliance." She felt something strange in that moment. Not anger, not offense. Something closer to curiosity. "You learned our language," she said. "I had 6 months on the ship," he replied. "I did not want to waste them." The wedding ceremony lasted 4 hours. There were prayers to gods that Tejo did not believe in. There were rituals that required him to kneel on stone floors until his knees bled. There were tests of endurance that were designed to break the spirit of anyone not born Valen. Tejo completed every single one without complaint. When the high priest cut his palm to mix his blood with the Empress's, he did not even flinch. Yuna watched him throughout the ceremony. His heartbeat was visible on the medical monitors that her guards wore. It stayed at 62 beats per minute the entire time. Perfectly steady. Perfectly calm. Either this human was too stupid to understand the danger he was in, or something else was happening that she did not understand. After the ceremony, there was a feast. Tejo sat beside the Empress at the high table, eating strange foods and answering questions from curious nobles. He was polite to everyone. He laughed at jokes that were made at his expense. He complimented the wine, even though it was too strong for human taste. By the end of the night, several nobles admitted privately that the human was not as pathetic as expected. General Daesung, the Empress's most trusted commander, approached her when the feast was ending. He was a warrior who had killed thousands in battle. His opinion mattered more than anyone's except hers. "What do you think of your new husband?" he asked. "He's adequate," Yuna replied. "Quiet, obedient. He will not cause problems." "I do not trust him," Daesung said. "He is too calm. Humans should be afraid of us." "He is not afraid. Perhaps he is simply too ignorant to know fear." "Perhaps," the general agreed. But his eyes followed Tejo as the human excused himself from the table. That night, Yuna sat alone in her chambers, reviewing security footage from the palace. It was a habit she had developed over centuries of surviving assassination attempts. She watched Taeho return to his quarters, change into simple clothes, and leave again. The cameras followed him to a private training room. For the next 3 hours, she watched him run. He ran on a machine that simulated Earth gravity, then increased it to violent standard, then increased it beyond that. He ran until sweat soaked through his clothes. He ran until his legs should have given out. He ran until any normal human would have collapsed from exhaustion. And when he finally stopped, he checked his watch, nodded to himself, and walked back to his room as if nothing had happened. Yuna called her chief physician immediately. "Explain this to me," she demanded, sending the footage. The physician studied the data for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was uncertain. "Empress, this should not be possible." His heart rate exceeded 200 beats per minute for extended periods. His muscles should have failed. His body should have shut down to protect itself. But it did not. I do not understand how he is still alive, let alone walking normally. Yuna ended the call and sat in the darkness of her room. She looked at the ceiling and thought about the small, smiling human sleeping somewhere in her palace. For the first time in centuries, she felt something she had almost forgotten. She felt uncertain. What exactly had she married? 3 weeks passed, and Taeho became a ghost in the imperial palace. He moved quietly through the halls, always polite, always smiling, always asking questions. He learned the names of servants that even the Empress did not know. He memorized the schedules of guards and the habits of nobles. He ate whatever food was given to him and complained about nothing. Yuna watched him through her security systems. At first, she told herself it was for safety. Humans were unpredictable creatures, and she needed to know if he was planning something. But as the days passed, she realized she was watching him for a different reason. She was fascinated that one morning, a young servant girl was carrying a tray of ceremonial wine through the grand hall. She was new to the palace and terrified of making mistakes. When she saw Taeho walking toward her, she tried to move aside too quickly. Her foot caught on her dress. The tray flew from her hands, and dark red wine splashed across the human's white shirt. The girl fell to her knees immediately. Her body shook with fear. In Valen society, a servant who damaged a noble's clothing could be punished severely. Some nobles would demand imprisonment. Others had demanded worse. Taeho looked down at his ruined shirt. Then he looked at the girl. Then he did something that made every guard in the room freeze with confusion. He knelt down beside her and started picking up the broken pieces of glass. "Are you hurt?" he asked. "Did any glass cut you?" The girl could not speak. She stared at him with wide eyes. "It is just a shirt," Taeho said gently. "I have others. Please do not worry." "What is your name?" "Mom," the girl whispered. "Ma Young. That is a pretty name. How long have you worked in the palace?" 2 months, sir. Do you like it here?" The question was so strange, so unexpected, that Mi-young forgot her fear for a moment. No noble had ever asked if she liked anything. I send money to my family," she said. "They live on one of the outer colonies. Life is hard there." Taeho smiled. "Then you are very brave to work so far from home. Your family must be proud of you." By the time the head servant arrived to punish the girl, Taeho had already cleaned up the mess and was walking away. He told the head servant that he had dropped the wine himself and that Mi-young had helped him. The lie was obvious, but no one dared to contradict the Empress's husband. That night, Mi-young cried in her small room. Not from fear or sadness, but from something she had never felt before. Gratitude. A noble had treated her like a person. Word spread through the servant quarters, then through the guard barracks, then through the noble houses. The human was strange. The human was soft. The human treated everyone the same. from the lowest cleaner to the highest general. Some Valens found this offensive. Most found it confusing. A few, mostly the younger ones, found it beautiful. General Daesung was not one of the few. He found Taeho in the training yard one afternoon and proposed a friendly sparring match. The general's smile was cold. Everyone knew what he really wanted. He wanted to show the court that humans were weak. He wanted to remind everyone that the Empress had married. Beneath her, Tae-Ho agreed without hesitation. The match was not fair. Daesung was 2 meters tall and built like a machine of war. He had trained in combat since childhood. He had killed enemies with his bare hands. Taeho was a mage who had learned basic self-defense in the military. The result should have been obvious. Daesung struck first. His fist connected with Taeho's chest and sent the human flying backward. Taeho hit the ground hard, rolled, and stood up again. Daesung struck again. And again. And again. Each time, Taeho fell. Each time, he stood back up. His lip was bleeding. His ribs were probably cracked. One of his eyes was swelling shut. But he kept standing. He kept raising his fists. He kept smiling that calm, gentle smile. "Stay down," Daesung growled after the 10th knockdown. "You have proven nothing." Taeho wiped blood from his mouth. One more round. By the 17th time, Taeho stood up. Daesung had stopped attacking. He stared at the human with something new in his eyes. It was not respect. Not yet. It was something closer to fear. "What are you?" the general asked. "Just a medic," Taeho replied. And then he bowed, thanked the general for the match, and walked away as if nothing had happened. That evening, Empress Yuna invited Taeho to dinner. It was the first time they had eaten alone since the wedding. She wanted answers. "Why did you not stay down?" she asked. "You knew you could not win." Taeho considered the question while chewing his food. "Winning was not the point," he said finally. "Showing up was the point. Getting back up was the point. On Earth, we have a saying. It does not matter how many times you fall. It only matters how many times you stand. That is foolish. You could have been seriously hurt. I have been seriously hurt before. I am still here." Yuna studied him across the table. "Tell me about Earth," she said. "Tell me why humans spread so quickly across the galaxy when you are so fragile." Taeho laughed softly. It was not a mocking laugh. It was warm, like he was sharing a private joke with himself. "We are fragile," he agreed. "Our bones break easily. Our bodies wear out quickly. We get sick from things that other species do not even notice. But we are still here. Do you know why? Tell me." "Because we do not know when to quit. Our planet tried to kill us many times. Ice ages froze us. Diseases wiped out millions. We fought wars that burned cities to ash. And every time, some of us survived. We adapted. We rebuilt. We kept going." He met her eyes, and for a moment, his gentle expression flickered into something older and harder. "We are not strong, Empress. We are stubborn. There is a difference." Later that night, Yuna's sister Harin came to her chambers with a data tablet. Harin was younger, curious, and spent most of her time studying alien species. She had been researching humans since the marriage was announced. "Sister, I need to show you something," Harin said. Her voice was nervous. The data tablet contained biological research on human physiology. Yuna read through it slowly, and with each page, her unease grew. Humans produced chemicals in their bodies called adrenaline and cortisol. In moments of danger, these chemicals could temporarily increase their strength, speed, and pain tolerance by up to 300%. Their bodies could push past normal limits and survive damage that should kill them instantly. But that was not the most. Disturbing part. Humans formed emotional connections faster and deeper than any other known species. They created something called pack bonds with anyone they spent time with. Once a human decided you were part of their group, they would suffer any pain, make any sacrifice, and face any enemy to protect you. This instinct was so strong that humans regularly died for complete strangers. Harin looked at her sister with worried eyes. "He has been here for 3 weeks," she said quietly. "He eats with the servants. He trains with the guards. He talks to everyone." She paused. "Sister, I think he is bonding with our entire palace." Yuna said nothing. "What have we married into our bloodline?" Harin whispered. The Empress had no answer. She only knew that she could no longer see the quiet human as a simple political decoration. Something was happening in her palace. Something she could not control. And for the first time in centuries, that frightened her. Commander Soo-hyuk had waited for years. He had watched the Empress grow comfortable on her throne. He had gathered allies in the shadows. He had built an army in secret, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. When he heard that the Empress had married a human, he knew the moment had arrived. The attack came during the Festival of Stars, the most important celebration in the Violin calendar. The palace was filled with thousands of guests. Music played in every hall. Dancers performed in the grand ballroom. And in the throne room, Empress Yuna sat beside her human husband, accepting gifts from noble houses across the empire. Taeho had been in the palace for 2 months now. He still smiled. He still bowed. He still seemed like the quiet, harmless creature that everyone expected. But something had changed between him and the Empress. She found herself looking for him in crowds. She noticed when he was not in a room. She did not understand these feelings, and she did not like them. The first explosion destroyed the eastern gate. The sound was so loud that it shook dust from the ancient ceiling. For a moment, everyone in the throne room froze. Then the screaming started. More explosions followed. The lights went out. Emergency systems failed. And then came the gas. It poured through the ventilation system like a silver fog. The smell was sweet, almost pleasant. But within seconds, nobles began collapsing. Guards fell where they stood. The gas was a compound designed by Soo-hyuk's scientists. It was lethal to every known species in the galaxy. Yuna felt her lungs burning. Her vision blurred. She tried to stand, but her legs would not obey. She fell from her throne and hit the cold floor. Around her, she could hear bodies dropping like rain. Her guards, her nobles, her people, all dying. And then she felt hands lifting her. Through her fading vision, she saw Taeho. He was coughing, his face twisted with pain, but he was still moving. He wrapped his arm around her waist and pulled her toward a side door. His movements were slow and clumsy, but he did not stop. "Hold on," he whispered. "I will get you out." The palace had become a maze of fire and death. Soo-hyuk's soldiers poured through the broken gates, killing anyone they found. The gas spread through every corridor. Bodies lay everywhere. And through it all, Taeho carried the Empress. He should have been dead. The gas had entered his lungs. His body was shutting down. But something inside him refused to stop. Later, scientists would study what happened to his body during those hours. They would find that his cells had gone to war against the poison. His immune system had overclocked itself, fighting the toxin with everything it had. His heart had beaten so fast that it should have burst. But it did not burst. It kept beating. 3 kilometers. That was how far Taeho carried Yuna through burning hallways and broken staircases. 3 kilometers of poison air and collapsing ceilings. 3 kilometers of stepping over the bodies of people he had known, had eaten with, had laughed with. He carried her through it all. When they reached the secondary bunker, Suhyuk's soldiers found them. There were 12 of them. Elite warriors in full combat armor. They had trained their entire lives for moments like this. They surrounded the human and the unconscious. Empress with weapons raised and confidence in their eyes. Taeho laid Yuna gently on the ground. He looked at the soldiers. Then he picked up a ceremonial blade from a fallen guard. "Move aside, human," the squad leader said. "We only want the Empress. You can live if you walk away now." Taeho did not walk away. The fight lasted 47 minutes. Security recordings would later show every second of it. The human moved like something broken but unwilling to die. He took wounds that should have killed him instantly. A blade through his shoulder. A blast to his chest. Cuts across his arms, his legs, his face. Blood poured from him like water from a broken pipe. But he did not fall. Every time a soldier came close to Yuna, Taeho was there. He blocked, he stabbed, he threw himself between weapons and the Empress. He fought with no technique, no strategy, only pure animal desperation. And slowly, impossibly, the elite soldiers began to fall. When General Daeshun finally broke through with reinforcements, he found Taeho still standing, barely. The human was covered in so much blood that his original clothes were invisible. 9 soldiers lay dead around him. 3 had fled. And behind him, untouched, the Empress still breathed. Taeho turned to look at Daesung. His eyes were unfocused. His body was swaying. But he managed to say 2 words before collapsing. "She's safe." The medical bay was chaos for the next 12 hours. Doctors worked on the Empress first. The poison had damaged her lungs, but she would survive. Then they turned their attention to the human. What they found made no sense. Taeho had lost enough blood to kill 3 Valens. He had wounds on every part of his body. His heart had been beating at over 200 beats per minute for nearly an hour. By every medical standard they knew, he should have been dead long before the fight ended. But he was not dead. He was unconscious, broken, bleeding, but alive. His body was flooded with chemicals that Valen doctors had never seen in such concentrations. Adrenaline, cortisol, endorphins. His cells were regenerating at impossible speeds. His organs were repairing themselves, even as the doctors watched. "It is like his body is fighting death," one doctor whispered. "And winning." Yuna woke 3 days later. The first thing she saw was Taeho sitting beside her bed. He was wrapped in bandages from neck to ankle. His face was bruised and swollen. But he was smiling. That same calm, gentle smile he always wore. "You are awake," he said softly. "I was worried." Yuna stared at him. This creature. This small, fragile, impossible creature. He had carried her through fire and poison. He had fought 12 elite warriors with nothing but a ceremonial blade. He had nearly died protecting her. "Why?" she asked. Her voice was weak, but the question was heavy. "Why did you do this?" "It was not your duty. You could have escaped alone." Taeho tilted his head slightly, as if the question confused him. "You are my wife," he said simply. "What else would I do? I married you for politics, for alliance. There is no love between us." "There does not need to be love," Taeho replied. "You are my person now. That is enough." Yuna felt something crack inside her chest. Not pain, something else. Something she had not felt in 400 years of ruling alone. Her eyes grew wet, and she did not understand why. "You almost died for me," she whispered. Taeho reached out and took her hand. His grip was weak, but warm. "I would do it again," he said. "As many times as needed." The Empress of 47 star systems, the most powerful being in known space, lay in a hospital bed and cried. She cried because a human had taught her something she had forgotten centuries ago. She cried because someone cared whether she lived or died. Commander Su-hyuk had expected victory. He had expected the Empress to die in the poison, the Empire to fall into chaos, and his army to sweep in as saviors. Instead, he found himself hiding at the edge of known space with a fleet of desperate ships and a growing sense of doom. The human had ruined everything. News of Taiho's impossible survival had spread to every corner of the galaxy. The story grew with each telling. Some said the human had killed 50 soldiers. Some said he had walked through fire without burning. Some said he could not die at all. Su-hyuk knew these stories were exaggerated, but exaggeration did not matter. What mattered was that his allies were abandoning him. What mattered was that even his most loyal soldiers were starting to whisper about the curse of fighting humans. So, Su-hyuk decided to end things directly. If the human had made himself a symbol, then destroying that symbol would restore order. He gathered what remained of his fleet and set course for the throne world. This time, there would be no poison, no tricks, no complicated plans. Just overwhelming force. 300 warships dropped out of hyperspace above the Valen homeworld. Su-hyuk broadcast his message to every channel in the system. Citizens of the Empire, your Empress has been corrupted by alien influence. She has married a human, a creature that has no place in our sacred bloodline. I give her one chance to surrender herself and her human pet. If she refuses, I will reduce her palace to ash and build a new empire on the ruins. You have 1 hour to decide. In the throne room, Empress Yuna received the message with cold eyes. Her generals stood around her, their faces grim. The planetary defenses were strong, but Su-hyuk's fleet was stronger. They could hold for hours, maybe days, but victory was not certain. Empress, General Daesung said, we can fight. We can make them bleed for every kilometer. But I cannot promise we will win. Yuna looked at Taiho. He was standing quietly beside her throne, his face thoughtful. The bandages were gone now, but scars still marked his skin. Evidence of what he had done, what he had survived. What do you think? She asked him. Taiho was quiet for a moment. Then he said, may I respond to his message? The request surprised everyone in the room. Yuna tilted her head. What would you say? Something human. She did not understand what that meant, but she trusted him now. She trusted him completely. Do it. The communication systems activated. Taiho's face appeared on every screen in Su-hyuk's fleet, on every news channel across the Empire, on every device capable of receiving signals. His voice was calm and steady, the same voice that had comforted dying soldiers and frightened servants and lonely empresses. Commander Su-hyuk, he began. I am Taiho. I am the human you want dead. I'm going to tell you a story. On his command ship, Su-hyuk watched with contempt. What game is this? Taiho continued. Long ago, on Earth, there was a battle at a place called Thermopylae. 300 soldiers faced an army of hundreds of thousands. They knew they could not win. They knew they would die. But they fought anyway. They held the pass for 3 days, and when they finally fell, they had taught the world something important. They taught us that numbers do not decide battles. Will decides battles. He paused, letting the words settle. You have 300 ships, Commander. We have less than half that number. By every logical calculation, you should win. But I have already decided that you will not. I have decided that this is my home now. These are my people now, and I will not let you take them. I do not know how we will beat you. I only know that we will. His gentle smile flickered into something colder, something ancient. On Earth, we have hunted prey for days without resting. We have clawed out of our own graves. We have survived extinction events that killed everything else. You are not an extinction event, Commander. You are just a man with ships. And I have decided that you will lose. He let the silence stretch for a long moment. "You have 1 hour to surrender." After that, we stopped talking. The transmission ended. On his command ship, Soo-hyuk laughed. "The human thinks words can stop weapons. Launch the attack." But his officers hesitated. They had seen the videos from the palace. They had heard the stories. They had watched a single human kill 9 elite soldiers while bleeding to death. And now that same human was looking at them through the screens, smiling like he already knew how this would end. "Sir," one officer said quietly, "are you sure this is wise?" Before Soo-hyuk could respond, another alert sounded. New ships were appearing on the sensors. Earth ships. Not warships, just transports, the kind used to carry supplies and personnel. But they were broadcasting one message on all frequencies. Human volunteers reporting for duty. Point us at the enemy. Taeho had called his old unit. They were not official military. They were just people he had served with, people who had heard what happened, people who had gotten on ships and traveled across the galaxy because one of their own needed help. There were only 50 of them. It did not matter. The battle began at noon. Soo-hyuk's fleet advanced with confidence. The planetary defenses opened fire. Ships exploded on both sides. The space above the throne world became a storm of light and death. On the ground, human volunteers fought beside Valen soldiers. They were smaller, weaker, and less trained. It did not matter. A human named Jin Seo took a plasma blast meant for General Daesung and kept firing his weapon while his armor melted. A human named Yumbai dragged 3 wounded Valens to safety while bleeding from a wound in her stomach. A human named Hyan Wu held a defensive position alone for 20 minutes after his entire squad was killed, refusing to retreat until reinforcements arrived. The Valen soldiers watched in disbelief. These humans were dying. They were clearly dying. But they did not stop. They did not run. They kept fighting, kept smiling, kept making jokes about how this was worse than Monday mornings back home. "What is wrong with them?" a young Valen soldier asked. The Sung, fighting beside him, understood for the first time. "Nothing is wrong with them," he said. "This is what they are. This is what humans have always been." On his command ship, Soo-hyuk watched his fleet crumble. Not from superior firepower, not from brilliant strategy. His soldiers were breaking because they were afraid. They had been told humans were weak. They had believed it. Now they were watching humans take wounds that would kill Valens and keep fighting. They were watching humans laugh in the face of death. They were watching something they did not understand. Fear was contagious. And the humans had numbed up by evening. The battle was over. Half of Soo-hyuk's fleet had surrendered. The rest had fled or been destroyed. Soo-hyuk himself was captured trying to escape in a shuttle. They brought him before the Empress in chains. He looked at Taeho with hatred burning in his eyes. "What are you?" he demanded. "What kind of monster survives what you survived? What kind of creature feels no fear?" Taeho looked at him with something like pity. "I feel fear," he said quietly. "I feel it all the time. The difference is that I do not let it make my decisions." He shrugged. "I am just a medic, Commander. I am nothing special. I am just human." Soo-hyuk was taken away. The Empire celebrated. And in the quiet days that followed, something changed. Months later, the palace was peaceful again. The alliance between Earth and the Valen Empire was stronger than ever. Human ambassadors walked the halls of power, and Valen scholars traveled to Earth to study the strange species that had captured the galaxy's attention. Yuna found Taeho in the garden one afternoon. He was sitting on his favorite bench, teaching a group of servant children a game called tag. Mi-young's daughter was there, laughing as she chased a boy twice her size. Taeho was laughing too, his gentle smile bright under the artificial sun. Una sat beside him and watched the children play. "I married you for politics," she said quietly. "I did not expect any of this." Tejo looked at her. "Any of what?" She struggled to find the words. "I did not expect to feel safe. I did not expect to laugh. I did not expect to find someone who would carry me through fire and then sit in a garden teaching games to children." She paused. "I did not expect you. Humans are surprising," Tejo agreed. "You are terrifying," Una said. "You are the gentlest, kindest, most terrifying thing in my empire." Tejo took her hand. His grip was warm and steady, the same grip that had held a blade against 12 warriors. The same grip that had carried her through poison. The same grip that now held her like she was the most precious thing in the universe. "That is humans for you," he said softly. "We contain multitudes. The Empress of 47 star systems, the most powerful being in known space, leaned against the shoulder of a simple human medic." The children laughed. The birds sang. The artificial sun cast golden light across the garden dot, and for the first time in 400 years, Una felt like she was home.